thing I would literally say, and I kind of wish this wasn't so basic, to be honest, but it is I wish I had been more communicative with my lecturers and my teachers in secondary school. Now, all of this is with hindsight, so this imagines a world in which I am comfortable talking about my health with people who are in authority positions in my life. And a lot of the time in school, the difference between how your teachers will treat you versus how your lecturers treat you is massively different. Very, very different, you know. And for me, I'm not sure if I would have wanted to tell my teachers that I was struggling with some unknown, undiagnosed pain. And to be fair, there would have been teachers who would have been incredible and taken that very seriously and given me whatever time I needed, whatever accommodations I needed. But there also would have been ones who would have said, well, I have arthritis and I still come to work. You know, there definitely would have been. However, it was much easier and I felt much more confident approaching lecturers when I had a diagnosis, because it felt like I had a concrete information from a consultant to say, Jen does this because of X, Y, and Z, rather than Jen does this and she doesn't know why, but she's going to have to keep doing it, you know, or not going to be able to do it, or not going to be able to do it as fast. Or sleep is more important than ever for Jen, so she's not going to do your 4 essays a night, you know, that kind of thing. That would have been hard, but I still think an approach to having communication and keeping those lines open. For me, ever before I got diagnosed, I was telling my lecturers that I was under investigation, and that helped because my doctors were able to write me notes saying I was under investigation for what was potentially a chronic illness, and that I might not be able to make every single class, and that I shouldn't lose marks for attendance, or, you know, if I was late or if I needed to leave early because I felt faint or because I was going to be sick, you know, or anything, because there's so many aspects to life with a chronic illness. So I would say try and keep those communication lines open, preferably in more of a communication with not just you and your teachers and you and your lecturers, but you and your lecturers and your doctor. If your doctor is the kind who is understanding and can say that even though you don't have a diagnosis, your life is being heavily affected by this, I would ask them to write a note and explain it as best they can. Explain that this isn't something that you're being hysterically anxious about and making up for excuses, because unfortunately there will always be educators who view illness that way. You know, we see that so often with mental illness, and it just upsets me, it galls me. So yeah, I would try and keep your communication lines open where possible. I hope that helps. It's easier said than done, but maybe pick your 1 or 2 teachers that you know will be more compassionate, or the lecturer you know is going to be open-minded, because chances are your teachers or your lecturers also know someone with a chronic illness or disability in some regard and will feel for you on some level. They won't all, but the important ones will, and that's what matters. This is probably the advice that I would find the hardest to take if I was to go back in time, but it's something that I wish I had taken on board, as it is fairly crucial to your own well-being. But I wish I had been able to redefine in my head what a normal academic journey looked like. I wish I had been able to change my perception of how my career path had to go. I think I was so, and to be honest, most people are when you're that age, you're very defined on keeping going with your friends. You know, you do 3 or 4 years of college, you graduate, you maybe do a master's, after that you work, and then, you know, it's all very set in stone. And to be fair, from the age of 5 at this point, you've only ever been in a system that's been set in stone. You haven't had to face the world and live with the flexibility of doing things on your own time for once. But I do wish I had redefined what a normal education path looks like, and thought that maybe, considering my health, my degree might take me 5 years instead of 4. It might take me 4.5 years. It might take me 4 years, but with a few extra exam repeats. For example, I didn't get to go on Erasmus when I was in college. I couldn't go on Erasmus and I was too sick to travel. And that's unfortunate, but that nearly what upset me more about that was not the lack of travel, it was the fact that I wasn't doing what everybody else was doing. That I was on a different path, and I suppose for the first time in my education, I was not moving with the masses. And that was very hard. However, I do think it would just have helped so much if I had considered the concept of leeway and given myself leeway. I gave myself entirely no grace in college. And to be fair, I do think that's my personality. I tried to go all in the first time and do it well. I've never repeated an exam. I never had to. It just wasn't a concept I wanted to do, to be honest. It was something that I was gonna burn myself out and be exhausted, but get it right the first time, you know? And that's how I function, and it's not healthy, but I do wish I had been more open to the concept of maybe approaching exams more intelligently and focusing heavily on one exam and accepting I'd have to repeat another, purely because my energy is split in half in comparison to everybody else's. I am glad I didn't defer college at any point, but at the same time I wish I'd been open to if I needed to, because if I had gotten any sicker I still would not have deferred college. I was so single-minded about keeping going and not losing my friends, rather than acknowledging that any friends really worth keeping wouldn't care whether you're not sitting in class with them every day, you know. And at that point I didn't think that way. I thought very differently, and I thought that my friends would forget about me, my academic life would be entirely ridiculous, and in future I'd be sitting in job interviews and they'd ask me why I took a year out, and then I'd have to tell them that I was sick. All of that is ridiculous. None of that makes any sense. It makes no sense at all. You know, we really just have to give ourselves leeway and grace to do things in a way that works for us. We need to work the system in the most compassionate sense for ourselves, and I think that is really, really hard to do when you've only been stuck in the system as a typically developing child and a typically developing teen, and suddenly you're a bit different to everybody else. It can be very hard to acknowledge that your normal and somebody else's normal is separate. But I would consider it. I wish I had talked it through with my counsellor at the time, my therapist, and maybe worked on that more, on redefining why I felt like I had to keep up with everybody at all times and nearly prove myself, which, like, who was I proving myself to? Now I view them like I was worthy regardless, you know. But yeah, I wish I had known that. I wish I had known that normal comes in a lot of different packages, and academic journeys are so all over the place and different for every single person, and that if yours is different from your best friends that you made in Freshers Week, who cares? Like, honestly, I can say this as a graduate who's been working for a few years and in the real world, just writing, doing 9 to 5, that kind of thing. Nobody cares. Like, literally, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And that's nearly offensive to, you know, everybody in college at the moment, when nearly every class matters and every night out matters, that you don't miss it, and you don't miss continuous assessment, and you don't miss X, Y, and Z. And I understand all of those pressures, but in reality, most of those are created in your mind to keep you going and are not reality. And they're not how the world is outside of university, to be honest. That being said, hindsight is 2020, and is hindsight 2020? Is that even a phrase? I feel like everything is 2020 this year. Just, but yeah, it is very hard to see that as a point of view when you are in college, and I understand that. But if possible, maybe talk it through with your parents or with even your friends, to be honest, because chances are they're going to be feeling, even if they're not ill and they're not under pressure in the same way, they may have other pressures that they feel they have to overcome to stay normal and to stay on board. That's not the case. You know, I just would try to work through acknowledging what your education plan is rather than what the university system's education plan is. But yeah, I hope that helped. I hope those tips were some kind of bit useful. I'm mainly making this video, I think, for myself, because little 18-19-year-old Jen was like a pressure cooker of trying to fit and please and not sacrifice anything for my health in any way, and ultimately that just led me to sacrificing my health in a larger way. And I think it's good for me to acknowledge that person and who she was, and that she was trying her best, to be honest. So I will talk to you guys soon. I will see you in my next video, and take care. Thank you so much for watching, by the way. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. Bye guys.